All right, fellas, Mark here. Y'all know how I do cookbooks and bring information. If y'all been watching my videos, you know I'm in my own personal storm. I'm actually sitting out here waiting to go into start a workout. So I said, let me just get on here real quick. Now, again, like I said, just been going through my own personal storm right now. Some of y'all see my videos, you know what I'm talking about. But fellas, I want to say this. The breakup process. I want to talk about the breakup process. When two people come together, right? When two people are united, there's a lot of physics involved. There's a lot of physics involved. If any of you guys studied Adam Smith, he's considered the father of capitalism. If you studied any of his manifestos, like The Invisible Hand, he talks about the invisible hand, which are forces at play from an economic capitalistic standpoint. But I say that to say that the invisible hand, which are forces that are at play, mechanisms that are unseen, that work with you, for you, against you, in you, through you, by you, these forces that are at play apply not only to business and economics, but also on various aspects and elements of our lives. So when you're going through the breakup process, the invisible hand, again, which is metaphoric for different various forces, are also at play. If you don't believe me, I'm sure most of us have gone through breakups before and so on and so forth, and we see how it cascades into various areas of our lives, right? We're all aware of that. It affects your finances, not only your psychological mood, your emotional mood, your financial mood. It affects so many areas of your life. Some people snap, some people go crazy. Then there's a stalker effect, right? People stalk people. So we understand the reason. So there are forces that are at play, that are acting up on you, that are far greater than you. And these are the forces that are responsible for why you feel the butterflies in your stomach, why you feel the pain, the heartache, the psychological ache, the emotional torture and torment. All of these are what's considered the invisible hand that are at play up on you when two people unite and then go through a breakage, right? A breakage of that bond. If you're familiar with quantum mechanics, quantum physics, quantum entanglement, or any of these sciences, you'll understand that the reason for this is because what's called electronegativity and electropositivity. If you study the periodic table, you'll know electronegativity are any of the halogens, any one of these fluorine, fluoride, chlorine, chloride, all these elements that are high in electrons. Electrons are negatively charged particles. And then we have what's called the metals. The metals are those particles that are electropositives. Magnesium, potassium, calcium, sodium, all these different elements that we have within our bodies they give up electrons, and therefore they have a positively charged nature. Now, the interesting thing is when two people break up, the person who does the breaking up, the person who walks away, they immediately go into, in terms of the invisible hand, the forces that are at play, they immediately go into a state of electropositivity. They capture the imbalance between electronegativity and electropositivity. The imbalance, they go into the state of electropositivity. Why? Because they are the one doing the walking away. They are leaving on their terms. They are going out on top. Therefore, they retain what's called electropositivity in terms of the dynamics of the relationship, in terms of the dynamics of the formulas and forces that are at play of the invisible hand. The person who's being left immediately sinks into what's called the state of electronegativity, meaning they become electronegativity, meaning their chemistry is in a state of negativities, charged energy, negatively charged energy. Hence why you feel the way you feel. Hence why you don't want to get out of bed. Hence why you don't want to go to work. Hence why you stalk the woman. You call her 1,000,000 times and she ignores you. Now, what's interesting is this. It's a step-by-step process, stage by stage. So now the person who leaves immediately veers off into electropositivity, and the person who's been left immediately sinks into electronegativity. Now, here's what's interesting. When the person who's in the state of electronegativity, the second stage is they are now stuck in what's called, again, physics and science, they're stuck in what's called a feedback loop. Not a positive, but a negative feedback loop. Case in point, an example. Your girl or your wife or your girl, whatever, she leaves you. You call her. She ignores you. No, she leaves you. You miss her, so you call her. She answers you and hangs up on you. You miss her even more. This aggravates you, so you call her again. She ignores you. You miss her even more, so you call her again. She ignores you. It frustrates you, so you call her again. And folks, you see where I'm going. This is what's called a negative feedback loop. You are constantly reinforcing the feeling or the electronegativity state that you're in to continue to propel you to stalk. Now you're stalking. They call it stalking, but it is stalking. For superficial and fundamental explanation, it's called stalking. That's the superficial fundamental explanation. But on a scientific, physics, science, scientific rationale or scientific explanation, is called a feedback loop, a negative feedback loop. So the more you miss her, the more you call her. The more you call her, the more you miss her. The more you miss her, the more you call her. So you're constantly you're stuck in a loop of reinforcing the energy or the entities that are goading you, coercing you into this direction or into this action. So you miss her, you call her. She ignores you, you miss her. The more you miss her, the more you call her. The more she ignores you, the more you miss her. You call her, you miss her. You see what I'm saying? So it's just a constant negative feedback loop that you're trapped in. So these are the stages that actually happens when you go through the breakup. Now, I'm sure you guys know like repels, right? Like repels and opposites attract. So the reason why you're in this feedback loop where you're constantly stalking this person, or you can't get this person out of your head, so you're psychologically trapped in a feedback loop, and you're all your chemicals are actually the dopamine, everything is the oxytocin. Damn, I can't believe I can't remember the word. The spin-off that they made is called Oxycontin. I'm sure you guys heard of Oxy. There's actually a chemical that the brain releases that's called oxytocin or oxy something. I can't remember the exact words. Forgive me, folks. But it's a chemical that the brain releases that makes you feel love for someone. I think it's called oxytocin or oxytocin or something like that. But I'll get back to you guys with it. You can research it. You can look it up. But nonetheless, so your brain begins to release this chemical more and more because the person is psychologically have you in a feedback, in a loop. You're trapped in that loop that I just explained. So you're constantly, your brain is secreting more and more of this chemical that makes you want the person back. All right. So with that scientific explanation being said, folks, here's the thing. Again, like repels, right? And everybody understand this. We've done this in elementary school or junior high school in your chem class or something like this, where you take two magnets and you put the two positively charged sides together and they repel. And if you take the negative and the positive, they attract. Okay. This is where the electropositivity and electronegativity comes into play. Because you are in a state of electronegativity and the person is in electropositivity, she who walks away or he who walks away immediately gets the upper hand and starts to pull you towards them. And the reason why you're calling them, stalking them, the reason why you're in this feedback loop, the reason why you can't get out of bed, the reason why you're in such a funk and in a stump is because of the scientific explanation of opposites attract. The opposites attract dynamics are at play. Invisible hand. You don't see it. But this is what's happening in the invisible realm. So their power, because they're in the state of electropositivity and you're in a state of electronegativity, they're pulling you towards them. They're constantly dragging you towards them by means of the invisible hand. So you don't need to know all of this in depth, but you should have a basic fundamental understanding of these powers, because these powers are far greater than us and they will destroy us if we don't understand how to, if we're not conscious and aware of these powers. They will destroy you. Like I said, go check, research news, go look on news, look at, just look around you at people who go through breakups and how so many people, including myself, I've been through it too. We've all been through it. We've all had our hearts broken and can't get out of bed or just don't want to, whatever. Your life just stops, so to speak, right? The cloud hangs over you, right? So it's important to understand these dynamics, these forces, the invisible hand, and therefore you can counter them. Now, here's the interesting thing. Here's how you counter them. This is the secret. This is not a secret, but this is the answer, folks. First thing you have to do is to become aware of these forces. Become aware of what's happening, what's at play. You're not attracted to the woman. You're not attracted to the man. It's not the man that have you going crazy that left. It's not the woman that left that got you going crazy. It's neither. It's neither. It's the forces that are at play on us every single day. It's the same forces that had you feeling great when you first met the person. When you guys bonded and yoked, all those same forces that had you felt euphoric, that, you felt happy, you felt the love, you felt whatever. Those same forces now have turned against you. Think of a coin. You have heads, all of a sudden you flip it, now it's tails. They're mutually exclusive. They cannot exist at the same time. These things are mutually exclusive. You flip a coin, it has to be one or the other. You can't have both at the same time. They are mutually exclusive. Okay, so all the feelings that felt good when you first met the person, you guys were in a good state, has now flipped to tails, or from tails to heads. And they're now working against you, okay? So now the secret is to understand, or to have an understanding of this. Once you have a basic understanding of this, then you can change the state that you're in. And I don't want to use the word change, because change would include transmutation, which is a whole of the creature on its own, the whole of the lesson on its own. But I would use the word modify and or alter. Modify and or alter. You can alter now the state that you're in. If the person leaves you, you have to first understand, okay, I'm going to fall into electronegativity. If you are the person leaving, you're going to be into state of electropositivity. But if you're the person being left, you must first understand the science that you're going to fall immediately into a state of electronegativity, right? So if you're being left, understand you're going to sink into electronegativity, whether you like it or not. Again, I made mention before, this is the invisible hand. These are forces that are far greater than you, and these are rules and scientific laws that govern the universe. They're inescapable, they're ineluctable, and unavoidable. Okay. So now, once you here's how you break that curse, or here's how you break that spell, or break that trajectory that you're about to fall into. Understand what's happening. Okay, understand the forces that are at play. That's the first thing. You have to, have that consciousness, be aware. Once you're aware, then you need to go into what's called the meditative state. Breathe, right? Take some deep breaths and become very conscious of what's actually happening. Be very aware of what's going on, what's happening. Take that deep breath. Take a couple of breaths. Take several breaths. Take as many as need be to come to that state where you are aware. You're conscious of what's transpiring, what's going on, and what's happening, okay? What is actually, not what appears to be happening, but what is actually happening, okay? Then once you do that, you can start to, as I said, alter or modify the electronegative state that you're in. You do that by doing positive things, right? Remember, opposites attract. So because you're in an electronegativity, and the person who leaves you in a state of electropositivity, you're going to be drawn to them. So this is where the stalking comes in, and the feedback loop that I explained before comes into play. So you need to understand that naturally you're going to want to call the person. Naturally you're going to want to see the person. Naturally, because all your chemicals are attractive, or being attracted or being drawn to that entity or that energy that person is in. It has nothing to do with the person. Remember, it has everything to do with the forces that are at play. That person force is positive, yours is negative, and opposites attract. So you're going to be drawn to them. They have the power. They're going to be pulling you to them. But it's not the person. It's the forces that the person, it's the state and the entity and the force that the person is actually operating and functioning under and in. And the same thing for you. The state function that you're in, the state that you're functioning in. So the interesting thing is to first come into this realization, self-actualization. And once you do that, then you can start to alter the state. And the way you alter that state is, for one, like I said, becoming conscious, becoming aware, start doing positive things. First thing is to completely isolate and cut off all communication from the host. Because the person is only the host. The entity, the force, the energy that's going to manipulate and control you right now needs a host. And the host is the person, the physical body, the material is the person. But they're only the host, folks. They are not the actual force. They're the host of the force. So you need to completely cut and sever all ties from that person. So if you just broke up with the person on Monday, you need to cut all ties Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Fridays. You need to completely cut ties. For however long be, weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4, you need to completely do not talk, do not call, do not do anything that's going to engage that entity, that force. Because remember, it's not the person, it's the force. Do nothing to give that force because that force wants to feed off of your energy. Give nothing to that force. Once you do that, folks, it's amazing. It's amazing. There's a shift. A shift begins to take place. It's a phenom. It's a phenom. There's a phenomenal occurrence that occurs immediately. And that shift in the dynamics changes the trajectory that you're in. Because remember, you're in electronegativity. Immediately, you start to change and go into a state of electropositivity. Because you're starting to do positive things. Exercising is something great that I like to do. You can exercise, you can go for jogs, go for walks, whatever it is you like to do. Everybody got their own thing. You like to play music, dance, whatever. Once you start doing positive things, you change the trajectory in that state of electronegativity that you're in, and you slowly start to crawl out of that, and you start to go into what's called electropositivity. And here's the phenom. You ready? Because the host, which is the person that left, no longer is receiving any energy from you, their electropositivity begins to change to electronegativity. Because here's the thing, folks. They have electronegativity too as well. Make no mistake about it. It doesn't matter who walks away from who in a relationship. Both parties are going to still have electronegativity. The only difference is who has a greater amount. And if you're the one walking away, you have less, the other person have more. But once you now cut and sever all ties from the host, the person who's walked away, their electronegativity begins to increase because it's already there. But you've been feeding by calling, stalking, hawking, by bothering the person, you've been feeding them that electropositivity. So the more they hang up on you, the more they ignore you, the more they see you chasing, their electropositivity continues to increase. But once you sever the tie, the tides turn. It's a phenom in science. It's called a phenom. The tides begin to turn, their electronegativity begins to increase, and yours begin to decrease. And this is called the transference of energy. If you study thermodynamics, if you study physics, you'll learn about the transference of energy. We're always transferring energy to each other, whether wittingly or unwittingly, knowingly or unknowingly, consciously or unconsciously, subconsciously, whatever, subliminally, obvious, conspicuous, inconspicuous. We're constantly doing this. So once you know or have this, folks, this is how, and now here's the irony, because what happens now is with the transference of this energy, and this is the formula, and I'm giving you the mechanisms of how this works, that person now falls into a state of electronegativity, especially if they're not aware of the science. If the person have no idea of the science, they're only carrying out the act, but they have no idea why they're doing what they do and how they do and what's going on, which most people don't. This is not common stuff that you're taught. So most people don't. They're going to sink into electronegativity immediately. Immediately, their stock begins to depreciate, and they fall, and yours begins to appreciate, and the tides turn. And before you know it, that person's chasing you. That person's calling you. But here's the thing, folks. Most people can't do this because the minute we go through breakups, our hearts sink, our head goes into a tail when we chase. And the chase begins, and we stalk, and we call, and we hunt, and then your life is just ruined, at least momentarily, if not permanently. So turn the tides, folks. Transference of energy. Understand how it works. All right. Till next time, y'all know that I'm gonna be doing cooking books, bringing information. Peace.